This is Vandal Drummond, along with Alfredo Esparza, episode number 6 of Slammin' Stan. How are you doing tonight, Alfredo?
Pretty good, Kurt. How are you doing?
I am doing really well.
How are you handling the heat?
I right now am sitting in nothing but my gym shorts under a fan in the computer room, and I do have the air conditioning on. I am a true Southern California boy.
There you go. Waste that energy.
That's right. That's right, to the max.
Since we know almost everybody's at Comic-Con today.
In fact, we want to give salutations to Dr. Lucha Steve Sims, who is participating in another interest close to my heart. He is taking part in the Zombie Walk that is part of Comic-Con this year. And I'm wondering if he is one of the first 150 people to take part in the Zombie Walk, because they're giving free Zombieland T-shirts to the first 150 participants. I think Dr. Lucha would look so cool in one of these shirts. It'll have to be his next Facebook photo.
Have you seen the preview for that movie?
No, I have not. I am looking forward to it, though. It's
up on Apple now. The Apple website, they have the trailer already.
I am looking forward to seeing Zombieland. I am also looking forward to seeing Dead Snow, about the unfrozen Nazi zombies.
Yeah, it looked kind of weird. I saw the poster for it, and I was like, what the hell is that?
Yeah, unfrozen Nazi zombies. That's even better than all the masked dwarfs from another planet who beat up Mil Moscaris and Champions of Justice.
There you go. They need to remake a lucha movie, but like actually better acting or something. I don't know.
I would be up for that. I think that's a wonderful idea, especially with Mil Moscaris.
Not like Nacho Libre. I'm talking about something written by a lucha fan, you know?
Yeah, in fact, that's something I always meant to ask you. Am I the only one who thought Nacho Libre was not all that hot?
I thought it was really bad.
Yeah, so did I. I mean, I think they got the kind of campy feel that, you know, Lucha Libre brings with it. But I mean, and Jack Black, I think, is so talented. That guy has very few flops.
Yeah.
And that was one of the few, which was disappointing because I thought it had a lot of potential.
Well, I mean, the whole storyline being based on Fray Tormenta, it's like, how far can you go with that? I think if they would have done it like based off of like, kind of like what they did with the Wrestler, but not like, but a little more like, a little lighter, you know, not... Yeah,
I agree. I thought there was a lot that could have been done with that movie.
Yeah, cause there's a lot of weird shit that happens backstage. You know?
That's one where it's debatable whether they should just touch the tip of the iceberg on backstage tales or go deep.
Well, I mean, there's so much stuff that you see backstage that you would normally not... I mean, you wouldn't expect. Like, everybody always expects that backstage if everybody's training, working out. Then you have, like, these guys smoking on one end.
I was thinking about that a little earlier. In fact, that's something I think we've meant to bring up on almost every episode of Slammin' Stan, and that is the most unique places where we've partaken in a pro wrestling show. I think any wrestler anywhere throughout the world can... You know, especially wrestlers who have, you know, worked on an indie circuit can talk about some unique, unusual arenas or what is supposed to pass for an arena. You and I, it's been almost 4 years since we first stepped into Arena Perro Aguayo.
Easily one of the worst places I've been to for a wrestling show.
Easily. I would say it's second only to Arena Mexico. I do not refer to the legendary Arena Mexico in Mexico City, obviously. In fact, this Arena Mexico was probably just 3 or 4 miles away from Arena Perro Aguayo. These were each of these arenas were in South LA.
Uh-huh.
And how would you describe Arena Perro Aguayo? Or what is the initial observation you had when you walked into Arena Perro Aguayo?
Well, when you first show up, it's basically just, I mean, you've seen those movies about, like, the steel mills in Pittsburgh and all that stuff, when they'll show, like, the steel mills.
Yes.
And like, not just Pittsburgh, but, like, when they show them, like, in those old old cities. That's what I thought that building looked like. And I was like, holy crap, that looks horrible.
And it was a very nondescript building. In fact, I think we could have easily driven by it and not known there was wrestling in there.
Yeah, if you don't see the poster just outside of the intersection, right there, you wouldn't even know there was Lucha Libre.
Yes, it was right on the corner of, I don't remember what the streets were, but they were right off the 110 freeway.
Yeah.
And you're right, there was a poster, but you could have easily driven by the poster because it looked like a warehouse inside a little gated area, and the only thing advertising the wrestling was a poster that was... I'm sorry?
The poster made with like a Sharpie.
Exactly, made with a Sharpie.
Yeah.
And the reason Perro Aguayo came into my mind is that was the arena where they had the legendary bucket of piss in the dressing room.
Well, that whole thing started off with because the restrooms why wouldn't the first thing I thought when we would go in is why didn't they put the dressing room, why didn't they put in that one spot in the entrance?
That's a good question, because we would enter Arena Perro Aguayo. There would be the little lobby area where they would take tickets and sell souvenirs. And then to the left there was a working men's and women's room.
Yeah.
Not the biggest one, but it was in good working order. The plumbing was, up to scale, everything, which if you've been in enough small wrestling arenas, plumbing ain't always there.
Yeah.
And the area that passed for a dressing room was in the back of the arena, far away from the men's room, and it was just a little curtained-off area with access with no place to piss. There was no back door where you could step out and piss in a back parking lot even. Yeah, so wrestlers just began pissing on the back wall in the warehouse.
Well, actually, it didn't start immediately. At first, it started where guys would go all the way to the restroom, wait in line with the paying public. So basically, they had to stand there and listen to these people,
in their tights.
They're in their tights, or if they were already dressed, they would have to put on their mask again and go all the way back to the other side.
And that alone kills the mystique. Hey, there's the guy in the main event gonna go take a piss.
Yeah. So basically, I think the first 2 weeks they would do that. Then the third week we showed up, and a couple of the guys, I think it was Aguila Azteca, was pissing on the
back wall. You're right. That was the first person we saw doing it.
Yeah, and then he offers us. What did he do? He offered to shake our hands. Remember? And you shook it like nothing, and I was like, no way, And what did he say? Don't worry, there's an opening right there. There's a hole there where the piss is going through, and we were like a little shocked.
Yes. Well, one thing is, if you're going to shake hands with people in wrestling, wrestling's no place where you can afford to be a germaphobe. You have to accept the fact that you're going to be rolling around in germs. You're going to be walking through every airborne illness imaginable, anything you can imagine. If it's germophobic, if you're germophobic, I should say, you're not there. It's hard to be a germaphobe in professional wrestling.
Carry your hand sanitizer with you.
Yes, and to just show my uber geekiness, I made a point of bringing my inhaler with me because I had never been in a dressing room where there was so much cigarette smoke in such a small area.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. There was always smoking, too.
Wrestlers were smoking from the moment you walked in till the end of the night. And it was, it's weird. That dressing room was almost like the ultimate Pavlov's dog. Once one wrestler started doing something, all the other wrestlers followed suit. It seemed like once Aguila Azteca started pissing on the back wall, all the other wrestlers started pissing on the back wall. Then one of the wrestlers lights up a cigarette. All the other wrestlers say, hey, sounds like a great time for a cigarette. And before you know it, you're smelling piss and walking through tobacco smoke. And there was a solution to the pissing against the wall the following week.
And that happened mid-show, too, the bucket. Because remember, when we showed up, there was no bucket.
Now, who read them the riot act about not pissing on the wall? So that's what I'm trying to remember.
I'm thinking, was it a Neutron?
Neutron, yes, because his wife was the promoter of the show.
And then he like while you guys were, I think you were actually wrestling during this time.
Mm-hmm.
Because I went to the back before you did, and I saw this trash can. And then I went, plastic trash can. So then I went back out. Just to see what if you guys were done. You went in there, and then you saw it too. And then we were like, "What's going on?" And that's where we started. Where somebody mentioned it was the piss bucket.
Yeah, it was a piss bucket, just this big bucket that all the boys pissed in. And from that point on, I looked for. Whenever I brought my gym bag in, I looked for higher ground. I looked for a table, for a chair to put it on, any place but the ground, because I knew that one day that bucket of piss would get knocked over somehow. Amazingly, it didn't happen in the time I wrestled there. I thought with my luck it was going to be
you. And you did not want that bucket to fall over because of the guys that were sitting.
Yes, it was nauseating enough walking by it.
And you didn't want to deal with the guys who you would actually mess up.
Exactly.
Those guys would kill you.
Yeah, and yet I do have fond memories of that place, as trashy as it was.
And then there was Dildo Man.
What?
Don't you remember the guy who wore the Road Warrior type? What was that? Those shoulder pads. Remember the shoulder pads that the Road Warriors would wear?
Oh wait, did you call him Dildo Man?
Remember they weren't spiked. Remember they weren't spiked. They were dildo. They looked dildo.
Oh my God.
You were the one that called them Dildo Man.
Oh Lord. Oh man, my memory is going bad, but this is coming back to me.
And then like I think one of the luchadors heard us call it Dildo Man. He started laughing too. I think that's Poder Infernal who heard us say Dildo Man, and everybody started laughing. I don't even remember who that guy was too. It was one of the shows where I didn't tape the show or anything.
Yeah. We're talking about all the grotesque stuff in the dressing room, but they were a really nice bunch of guys.
Oh yeah, really good guys.
Remember Kid Norteño? I never got to work with him. I was hoping I would, but he was a kick.
One of the craziest guys you'd see, and all of a sudden he was really like he had the most I guess how would you say it? He had the most.
Are you talking about his ring outfit?
Well, no, the way he viewed wrestling. Like, he didn't think, like, remember that one guy who was here for a little while? I can't remember the guy's name.
Rudy Venegas.
Yeah, him. And he wanted to be in the third match.
Yeah, he made the statement that he refused to wrestle on a show where he wasn't at least in the third match or higher.
Yeah, because he was in the opener, and he was
yes.
Through the whole night, he was just complaining, and then Kid Norteño just looked at him, hey, they're paying us whatever amount. It doesn't matter if I'm in the opener or the main event or in the middle of the card. I'm gonna do what I have to do to entertain the fans. And
exactly. He seems like somebody who really enjoyed what he did. It wasn't a career for him, but he put a lot into it. He was an older guy. He was probably around my age.
I think he might have been older too.
Yeah, and he's somebody who, wasn't full of himself. He just, seemed to have, a great time.
He was just crazy though.
Yeah, he was crazy. Yeah, I will say that. He was a bit of a nut job, but a very friendly one. I got a kick out of Kid Norteño. And
yeah, really nice guy. Whenever I would tape the show, he offered to pay me, and I was like, no, that's okay. That's okay.
Which is also refreshing because there's a lot of, you'll meet a lot of boys who expect you to front them free copies of everything because they're wrestlers.
The majority of the guys I've dealt with have been willing to at least, they'll offer to pay shipping, and that's fine. They don't have to do it, but hey, that's great. It's nice to hear that. It's always nice to hear, like, somebody offer to do something.
Yeah, that is nice, yeah.
Today's day and age where everybody wants everything for free.
Yeah, whether they're a wrestler or one of the smart fans who thinks because they're in the know that, they should get a free ride.
Kid Norteño versus Stalker Ichikawa would have been fun.
Oh, that would be sweet.
Just being backstage, having them have a discussion over it would have been or you know what? Just Kid Norteño's reaction to wrestling Stalker Ichikawa would have been fun.
I could picture Kid Norteño after wrestling Stalker Ichikawa getting excited and wanting to do a whole program with him.
Well, I remember with you, he wanted to do like a whole hair versus hair match, a whole feud built around and then leading to a hair match or something.
And, when I had long hair, that was my ticket to getting booked on indie shows, is because all the luchadores would see me and say, oh, my God, I could wrestle this guy in a hair match. And they would all ask me, how much do you want for your hair?
And the highest bidder was, what, $300?
$300, yes. Then the only time I dropped my hair was 15 years ago to Fisico Nuclear, and I got $260 for that.
Wow. Hey, that's a good payday.
And that was one of the most fun matches I ever had, in addition.
On the indie circuit where you don't get paid half the time?
Yes.
Where you're just paid, thank you.
So I got to say, the people who paid me $260 was Dan Farron, the late Larry Doyle, and Grant Miller.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dan Farron paid you $260? Wow.
He paid me $260, yes.
He's gonna demand his money back. Now I want my money back.
No, one thing I'll say about Dan is if you were a wrestler on one of his shows, he made sure you left with a payoff, and not a $10 payoff.
Yeah, not like the. I think that's probably what killed Arena Perro Aguayo too.
Yeah, I was surprised. I remember getting a $20 payoff, and to be honest, I was surprised I got that much.
Yeah, I think you could get away with it for a certain amount of time and with certain people, but I mean, once those guys are in the same position and they've already wrestled elsewhere, you just can't do that anymore.
I think you can do it as long as you have guys who want to get some sort of exposure. Yeah, until guys get wise to it, there's a lot of young guys who will take little or no payoffs. Well, I brought up last week the Gym Slammers, who for a while people actually had to pay to be on their shows. That was very surreal. I bet they're not the only promotion that's ever done that. And if anybody out there has worked on any shows that have any arena stories that are comparable to Arena Perro Aguayo, please let us know. Email us. And we usually don't get people calling in, but I guess we should give the call-in number to Slammin' Stan, shouldn't we?
No. Yeah, the call-in number is 347-324-3764. Hey, for Blog Talk Radio, they're offering this new premium service where you can actually call people in.
Really?
For $40 a month, you can call people in. I'd be like, could you imagine we got Steve Sims' phone number? We start calling. Hey, Steve, where are you?
You say, why won't you guys stop bothering me? You guys are always pestering me because I'm your only caller.
And then we can start calling other podcasters.
Other podcasters? Actually, we should start just calling random people out of the phone book and see where it goes.
You know what we should do? One of these days when we see Brian Alvarez and Dave Meltzer doing a show, we should plan our show at that time and call their show.
That would be sweet. We would be a show within a show.
Yeah, show within the show.
That would be sweet. That would rule.
And then we could all interrupt each other.
Well, we mentioned Stalker Ichikawa.
Yeah, getting back to Stalker Ichikawa, you've mentioned you finally saw his match.
I saw that match. For those of you who are Stalker Ichikawa fans or who are not Stalker Ichikawa fans, he is a wrestler whose fame is based upon him being a jobber who, unlike almost every other jobber, has complete storylines and angles wrapped up into his role as a jobber. The most prolific loser in the world is Stalker Ichikawa. And
he wears like a devil outfit, too.
That's a great outfit. Well, the first time I ever saw Stalker Ichikawa was on one of the DVDs that I was watching over at your house about, I think, 6 years ago, maybe.
Uh-huh.
I thought he looked like a Martian from one of the old Blue Demon movies or an old Japanese science fiction movie, and I just thought, this guy is amazing. And then I saw him, tear his top shirt off as if it were a fruit roll, and then he loses. I sat there saying, what the fuck? This is the most brilliant gimmick, and they just buried this motherfucker. in record time. But little did I know that
but it works
this was...
for him, though.
What's that?
It works for him because he's like a skinny guy, so... And his
yes, it worked. And, you know, since 1998, I believe, is when he made his debut.
Yeah, in Mexico, isn't it?
Yes, and...
First in Mexico.
And ever since then, his whole storyline has, been the jobber who occasionally will win a match. I doubt he's won more than 5 or 6 matches. Of course, I might be wrong because
Somebody's going to send you the complete history of...
Please do.
Of Stalker Ichikawa, and you're going to be wrong.
Please do, because I'm ashamed to say I'm a huge admirer of Stalker Ichikawa, but I know very little about this man.
In fact, every time he comes over to California and to Los Angeles.
We got to see him wrestle
Top Gun
Tall War in Burbank. Or was it Reseda? No, it was Burbank. On the Pro Wrestling Guerrilla show.
We saw him climb a cannon, didn't we?
Yes, we did. The show I wish I got to see him on was the show in City of Industry where he did the job to Bart Kapitsky's cat.
When was that? Was that after or before?
That was about a year. That was after. That was just in the last year. The little black cat that walks around Bart's shop? He did a job to the cat.
This was right before they did their show, right?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So they came and did their Dragon Gate show.
And I cannot say enough good things about Stalker Ichikawa. The only thing I would change is I would dump the jobbing gimmick, bring him full-time, and I'd be putting him over like crazy. That is the coolest outfit I ever saw.
Well, I think they can't. I think he doesn't work full-time because he actually does other stuff behind the scenes.
Even better. Yeah. That's somebody close to my heart. That's like a sort of a wrestling soulmate, somebody who is a ham and egger, who doesn't do this full-time.
Yeah. Plus, he was in a car accident too a while ago.
Ooh, bad one?
No, I don't know if it was a car accident or he got. All I know is his license was revoked or something.
Oh, wonder if he did a job to the traffic cop.
I don't know. I think I read it. I can't remember. I read it on the Observer or on one of the message boards.
I could picture him being in costume when he did it.
That would be so hilarious.
Couldn't you see that? You're this nice little patrol man just trying to do your job. There's a wreck, and a guy in a Martian costume comes out.
You know what I always cracked up whenever the luchadors would show up at a wrestling show, and they'd be wearing their mask already, like los Chivos.
Yes. I have Los Chivos, Kayam and Enigma de Oro, 2 of the sweetest guys you'll ever meet. The funny thing, though, is Enigma de Oro, I have never seen him without his mask. Ever.
The backstage stories, the guys just like to rib on the ribs he gets for not taking off the mask,
Oh, exactly. He's the only one of the boys who would keep his mask on throughout the entire show in the dressing room.
Wonder if he wears it during the heat, man.
Wonder if he wears it to his day job.
Well, see, I think that's where we started poking fun at him. Remember that one time where he was talking about he was hurt, his shoulder was hurt, so we started asking him, hey, so like, do you wear that at your day job or? Do you wear that?
He made some little crack about people looking at his forehead because I guess he's got a pretty gigged forehead.
Uh-huh.
Typical of a lot of indie guys. And I can't remember what excuse he made for why he had a road map on his forehead. I remember laughing at it, but I can't remember the anecdote. Isn't that brilliant on a podcast? I'm sharing an anecdote I don't remember.
Well, I think Kayam, man, if he ever lost his mask, he'd be really good. He'd look all right. Like
he'd look fine.
I guess he's probably in his 40s too. So
he's in his 40s. I began watching Kayam in 1981 in Hadco Plaza.
Uh-huh.
He was always in the opener, and for the longest time would always do the job. And Hadco Plaza, I cannot overemphasize what a great indie promotion it was. When they would bring a wrestler up from the opening matches, they would not rush him ever. They would take it nice and slow. I would say I saw Kayam wrestle in opening matches for about 4 months, And before I went to Hadco Plaza, I had a friend who was going there regularly, and he said, yeah, Kayam's lost ever since I can remember.
Wow.
And then finally, one week we go there, and he goes over in the opening match, and the crowd popped like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah, I mean, if he ever lost, if he had a match, he has nothing to worry about if he dropped his match.
He could get over, with his facials and stuff, he could get over easily. He has a very charismatic face.
Yeah, he's got like a Colosso Colosetti kind of look.
He does. That's a very good way of putting it.
Yeah, I mean, like the beard, like all the just his face, the.
Oh, he could do those histrionic expressions a la Colosetti.
Yeah.
He could get over easily with that face. Another thing that fascinates me about Los Chivos is they, I think, are the hardest working Southern California indie boys I have ever seen.
No, they used to for like about, I don't know about recently, but like for about the last several years, they were on every single show except for people.
It seemed like they were wrestling 5 or 6 nights a week, and sometimes they would be doing double shots in addition to holding down their day jobs.
Yeah, I mean...
Kayam is a school teacher.
Oh, you broke kayfabe. My goodness.
Oh, dear. Oh, my God.
Oh, my God. You're going to get a phone call now.
Witness protection program now.
Kurt Brown's going to get assaulted. The good thing is nobody knows where you live, so...
Yeah, they could probably find out easily enough.
Yeah.
As long as Dr. Jerry Graham was never able to find out, that's all I was concerned about.
That's all that matters.
Now, Stalker Ichikawa, where did you first see Stalker?
I think the first time I saw him was on, I think one of the IWRG shows. I think that was one of the first times. It was either that or the first Toriyama show, because he was already pretty much he was used on those shows all the time. But I remember seeing him in IWRG, and the Mexican crowd always has like this weird reaction to people, and they just start laughing at like. So
was his gimmick completely comedy right out of the starting gate? Was it thoroughly developed?
Yeah, it was already that. Like the first time I saw him, he was already that. But the funny thing is, like all the skinny Japanese guys get that same reaction though. Like I remember Milano Collection AT when he did. I think he was I can't remember what his name was, but he just got ripped all the time, like on the show. You just hear like the little cat calls they give him and everything.
Wow, very easily get stereotyped in that respect.
Yeah, it's just like you just know what's going to happen. So have you been following all the news for the next couple of weeks of lucha? A lot of stuff.
I DVR'd AAA. I have not watched it. I cheated, and I looked at the AAA report on Wrestling Observer.
Uh-huh.
And I just skimmed it, but I didn't see the name Gato Everready or Pimpinela.
So you just skipped it.
I skipped most of it. The one thing I am missing out, though, is I think they said there was a singles match between Teddy Hart and Jack Evans.
Yeah. On the last show, I think that was...
Yeah, so I am going to go back and watch that, but no Pimpy, no Gato, no Dice. Yeah. I wasn't going to rush and watch it just so I could talk about it tonight.
I kind of crack up because you know how they built up that D-Generation Max, and they even stole the music, the video, and everything, and they right away they already broke it up. Like they never did anything with it. It was just like one of those time wasters.
Is John Laurinaitis booking for them now?
Well, see, what they should have done is just had him job like to the Cyclo Circus. At least we could have had that. I think they did.
Yeah, at least you could have kept that lame storyline going on.
I mean, it just. I don't know. I think AAA. I understand that they're drawing, but I don't think they're drawing as well as some people make it out to be. Because I've seen some of those smaller shows, and there's like no one at these shows.
I would be curious to see how they're doing. Day-to-day business. Not day-to-day business, but, what their typical gait is, because we're used to hearing these really successful, gaits.
Yeah,
but is it that way down the line?
Yeah, I think it's just their big shows that are doing really well. But and I don't know if you noticed, but I think they list everything as TV tapings too now. So they make sure people, hey, let's go to the TV taping. Something might happen. But it's like such a crappy, I don't know. AAA, I understand why some people like it, but it's never been my cup of tea.
I can see the charm, but I don't think I've been able to sit through an entire episode without doing a little bit of the fast-forward action.
Did you hear they're going to have a new TV show?
Yes, I did. This is the one, it's going to be one of these Who Wants to Be a Star type.
Well, that, and apparently they're going to do another wrestling show for Fox Sports, Espanol.
Oh, I did not know about that.
But see, like, there's some people that get really excited about it, but I don't know if you've ever seen, like, some of their previous attempts at one-hour shows outside of television. They've been pretty bad.
Well, I think anybody who's been a smark for long enough, like we have, after a while you learn, do not get excited when there's a new show on the horizon, because you hear all the potential it has, all the possibilities, only for the whole thing to go flop. Not, because shows are supposed to go flop, but because the visionaries just don't deliver, or they're held back, or whoever's telling the story their way.
It just ends up being something that you don't like. That one time they did a show where it was about, I think it was like for late night, like a after-hour show, and it was really like, it was just Latin Lover and those guys stripping or whatever. It was for women. I saw one episode and I was like, I don't think so.
Oh.
And then CMLL's, I guess next week they're doing their Inferno and a Ring show, and they have their main event is a 15-man cage match. So they had announced like the first 10 or 12, and then like the final 4, I guess they couldn't figure out, so they just went like four mid-carders.
I love it.
They just went Maximo, Heavy Metal, Okamura, and Miklan. Let's finish this. There you go. Final 4, all mid-carders.
And when you think of heavy metal and the word mid-carder, and you think about
main event,
the heavy metal of 1992 or 1993.
But the thing is, wouldn't it have just made, instead of having a 15-man cage match, wouldn't it have just made sense going with the 10 guys you had already listed?
Easily. More is not merrier all the time.
But
it's not set in stone.
Yeah. Robert Bihari had this comment. He's like, well, at least the rest of the card can't be bad now. I'm like, hey, that's true.
Uh-oh.
Because you get all the mid-carders in the main event, so it's like, okay. The crappy mid-carders, too. It's like,
shove them in there, yes.
Heavy Metal's really bad. Okamura, have you seen Okamura?
I have not seen Okamura.
You've never seen him? He's a Japanese guy who's actually learned Spanish, and his promos, like his best thing is his promos. Like, cause when he gets because he's really funny, but like once he starts wrestling, it doesn't work.
So it's like they have their Stalker Ichikawa on the interviews, but not in the ring.
Yeah, in the ring, it just doesn't come across. And then his interviews, when he did them in IWRG, were really good, because he would usually be with Javier Yanez, Gusano Yanez.
Yes.
And he would do the interview, and he would actually like say something, and then he would respond to him or whatever. So it really worked. But like on CMLL, it just doesn't work, because it's just him talking. Their interviews are like them talking to the fan, and it's not somebody interviewing them. So it just falls apart. And then and the match is just his work in the ring. He's actually slightly better than he was in Japan, though.
So there is improvement on the horizon.
And then Miklan, have you seen Miklan?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, he's awful. So.
Yes.
You've seen Maximo, right?
Oh yes, I've seen Maximo.
And the best thing about
one of the strangest exotical gimmicks I've seen.
But aren't you amazed? I mean, the first thing you think about Maximo is like, how did he get India Stew?
Yes.
So he gets
he must have something. He must be 5 stars in some areas that we just don't understand.
It's like he's probably like the one exotico I could really care less about. I don't know what it is about it.
Yes. He's one of the few exoticos that look out of place as an exotico.
Because he doesn't look like an exotico.
No, he does not. He looks like somebody who's kidding himself.
He looks more like a Roman type of character or something. I don't know, like
almost like a Bayo Greco and Sergio El Hermoso, but not quite getting over the hump there.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
Maybe his work isn't like what I thought it was like a year ago.
Possibly.
Or maybe he's worn out from impregnating.
Possibly.
He's probably worn out from impregnating India Stew, It takes a lot of work out.
Oh, Lord. Now, last week, as we recall, I reviewed the movie Swamp Girl, and I felt so bad at how terribly I represented that movie. It wasn't much of a synopsis. And when I think of the releases that Something Weird Video has put out, Something Weird Video is a very fascinating company. They, do DVD releases of movies, some of which should have never been made, some which should have been classics, some that most people think shouldn't have been made, but people like me think are brilliant works of art. And I briefly mentioned that my favorite release by Something Weird Video was an obscure flick called Confessions of a Psychocat. And the reason I thought it would be appropriate to bring that movie into Slammin' Stan and try to do one of these great B-flicks justice is because this is one movie where professional wrestling is worked into the storyline.
Whoa.
This was a movie made back in 1967, and I believe it was last October. I watched it for, I believe, the 5th time, and I just sat back, wrote a little bit about it, trying to figure what was it that just floored me about this movie. Well, one, there is professional wrestling involved, and the coolest thing is the professional wrestler is played by the legendary Jake LaMotta, the Raging Bull.
Wow.
1967, and I don't know why they didn't somehow work his, supporting role in this movie into the movie Raging Bull.
I know, you would have thought it would have been.
Yeah, it would have been key to his rise and fall, so to speak. Yeah. Well, this was a great black and white movie.
I watched Raging Bull,
That's a wonderful movie.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful movie, but Confessions of a Psychocat came years ahead before it.
Oh, so they could have
had that same black and white, kitschy feel to it. But there was something just indescribable. No, not indescribable. I am about to describe it, because when I watched that movie, I asked myself, what constitutes a classic B movie? A movie that attains cult status. A movie that is bad yet good. It's a tricky subject, especially when you take into consideration that there can be a huge debate over what constitutes a B movie. There are B movies that are so horrid that you sit there slack-jawed wondering how these images made it to celluloid. And then you have the B movies that are low budget, made with serious intentions, and fall somewhere in between campiness and brilliance. And then you have the folks who actively try too hard to make the movie campy. An example would be Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. And most of these movies just blow. Aren't even good for camp. So then you have to ask yourself that question again. How do you define a great B movie? And my own personal rating system when it comes to a B flick, first step, you have to hold off all rational analogy and judgment. In fact, when you watch the movie, resist any temptation to review that film after one viewing. Just let it ferment in your emotions and your bloodstream until your spirit harks to you. Again. We must watch this film again. Now, don't force the call. Don't force yourself to make that call. Just let your inner whore call the film's name and drag you back to it. And when your inner whore drags you back to watch the film repeatedly, then it has defined a classic B movie. And then you can gig open your mind and spill the ocean of words onto the critic's page. This is when you have been set free, when the spirit of such films now soothes the spirits of your overly repressed ancestors and their house pets, even the ones they never knew they had, and even the one I have right now who is trying to steal my soul. And Confessions of a Psychocat is the archetype of such a film. It's a wicked black and white mindfuck fantasy that is reminiscent of René Clair's classic And Then There Were None. The difference is Rene Clair, I hope he never saw Confessions of a Psycho Cat, because while he may have had the superior budget, he would have forever wept over the fact that his version lacked vision, not to mention the Crazy Man Crazy beat jazz soundtrack, the rampant nakedness in Confessions of a Psycho Cat, naked bodies everywhere, and the wild mad monster party gaze of the star of the film, this unusual woman named Eileen Lord, who played the Psycho Cat. She plays the role of a socialite who is also a psychiatric patient named Virginia. And she's an adult with an older brother, and the movie opens with her brother heading overseas on a safari. Little does he know that his sister is planning her own urban safari in New York City. What happens is she gathers 3 men to her apartment with an astounding proposal. She will send each man a post-dated check for $100,000. Upon accepting the check, all they have to do is survive the next 24 hours in New York City. And what is the catch? She is going to hunt them down like animals, which alone makes her very sexy. And the reason Virginia intends to kill these miscreants is because each of them have killed others in the past, and in each case they have escaped criminal prosecution. And this is a cool trio of bad men. There's Charles Freeman, the washed-up actor looking for a comeback. There's Buddy, the junkie looking for a fix. And, of course, Jake LaMotta as Rocco, the championship wrestler who once beat a man to death in the middle of the ring. And the fun starts early when Buddy, after having survived the initial attack by Virginia, is seeking refuge from her hunt in a secure apartment where all good junkies seek refuge. Now, Alfredo, where do all good junkies looking for a fix go to find their next fix?
Walmart?
That's a good guess. You're close. No, you go to a friend's apartment who just happens to be hosting an orgy.
Yeah, usually that's where it goes, right?
Yes, exactly. So Buddy goes into this apartment where there is, a whole rooms and rooms full of naked people. He tells these naked people having sex his backstory about how he's being hunted, how he is the last survivor of the 3. And he tells the partially clad and naked people, in hindsight, how the actor and the wrestler met their horrible fates. And what I love about this movie, what I love about the storytelling time at this orgy, is that the orgy scenes are completely unnecessary. I love it. And I have always hated those tired old line professional actors who do this spin about, I only do nudity if it is essential to the storyline. Fuck that noise. I love the Helen Mirrens of this world, the brilliant performers who just shed their clothes at the drop of a hat. So, an interesting history about this movie is that the word is that the numerous orgy scenes that were inserted into this movie were put there several years after the rest of the film was actually completed.
Oh, so it wasn't part
exactly. It serves a good purpose, just to titillate the people.
Yeah.
The original working title was The 3 Loves of a Psycho Cat. It was supposed to be a straight-on kick-ass chick flick, but they decided to redo it as sexploitation and kick-ass. An almost certain hypothesis, although I Googled myself silly, without success, to find any first-hand accounts of people involved with this film. With the exception of a scant few people who starred in this movie, everyone involved in the making or acting of Confessions of a Psycho Cat, including Eileen Lord, the star of the film, and the director, Herb Stanley, they seem to have vanished from the face of the earth after the final cut of this movie was made.
Oh.
I find it interesting because if you peruse the database of folks who are involved in the most remote B movies, it seems at least half the cast and crew have landed at least a few more credits to their rosters. Another interesting piece of trivia in this flick is that there was one exception there was one woman who was in another film who was in this movie. One of the stars of this movie, or should I say the later inserted stars, was a woman named Rita Bennett. In fact, her role listed on Internet Movie Database is one of a sex insert. She was in a number of small roles after this movie. And do you know what the very last role, the very last movie she had a part in was?
What was it?
Raging Bull.
Wow. What was she in Raging Bull?
I think it was just some nondescript part. Probably like woman in scene or woman in diner or something like that.
One of the extras.
Exactly, one of the extras. But it's kind of, cool that she came full circle, starting in a movie with Jake LaMotta, ending in a movie about Jake LaMotta.
Interesting.
And one of the coolest parts about this sadistic joyride is the way Virginia kills Rocco. She lures the wrestler to her penthouse apartment late at night and then out onto her patio, where her manservant plays a picador and sticks Rocco in the back with some picks. And then we see Virginia in full matador gear, just like Tito Santana in WWF, with a sword and cape, and she engages in a human bullfight with Rocco and just takes him to pieces. It is actually chilling the way he screams his death screams. Very cool shit that you must see. And all I've got to see is, why did we never see Eileen Lord, the Psycho Cat, after this movie? She's straight-jacketed on the cover of this video. And I call upon her wherever she is to break free, return in full matador gear, impale the sad efforts of the long list of dismal B-movie torture films being cranked out today. There are many of them, and they all suck. All the films of Ray Dennis Steckler and Herschel Gordon Lewis combined cannot hold a matchstick to the huntress that was Eileen Lord in Confessions of a Psychocat. So the only way I can wholly wind up this piece about Confessions of a Psychocat is asking if there are any other Psychocat fanatics out there. Please email me at Liger, Lyger, at AOL.com, because B-movies, or even big-screen movies, don't get more bitchin' than Confessions of a Psychocat. A must-see movie for all.
This sounds more interesting than Harry Potter.
This is much more interesting than Harry Potter.
Have you seen the most recent Harry Potter?
No, I haven't. I am almost embarrassed to say I've only seen the first Harry Potter.
Oh yeah, the most recent one is like, I don't know. It's just, I think everybody who let's just go with the whole read the book type of response. So like everybody that I talk to, they'll be like, yeah, the book is better. I'm like, oh. Well, that's
right. That's what I've heard the buzz is. Everybody who is really into the books for some reason was really put off by this last movie.
Yeah, the last movie. Everybody says it's not as good as the book, and I'm like, yeah, but the problem is, I want to go watch the movie to not read the book. So I don't want to read the book. I'm not a reader. I would rather just like go sit down and the bad thing is 2.5 hours long, man. It's just crazy. I actually saw a better movie than Harry Potter.
And what was that?
This like Canadian film called Léolo. I don't know if you've seen it.
I remember Léolo very well. That was a movie that had a very, very good soundtrack.
Yeah, it was really weird though. Like about a family dysfunctional family, and the little kid's trying to kill his grandfather and everything.
Oh, extremely grim movie. Very, very well made, but grim.
That's
movie with an excellent soundtrack that includes work by Jacques Brel and Tom Waits.
Yeah, it's Tom Waits, right?
Yes.
I was like, that's Tom Waits.
Yes, in The Cold, Cold Ground, they played the song in there.
I'm not a big, I like Tom Waits, but I've never heard a lot of his music.
Oh, I must turn you on to some of his music. He along with Leonard Cohen, I think, is the greatest lyricist I've ever heard.
I'll try to buy some. Buy some. Buy some. Let me wink at you, Kurt, through the. Let me wink to all the callers that I will be buying some Tom Waits.
Yes. I try to shove him down people's throats. I discovered Tom Waits in 1978, and I've never looked back.
Yeah, I've noticed that the older I've gotten, the more I listen to, like when I was a kid, I always listened to rock, certain like the harder music, and the older I've gotten, I'm more accepting of other music.
Yeah,
I blame
one of the advantages, I was the baby of the family, 3 older brothers and 1 sister, and each of them had pretty diverse taste. So there was music of, almost every genre in our household.
Uh-huh.
And I think that taught me to just embrace the fact there is so much music out there. It's just never ending, the genres and, styles of music you can find. There, it's a never-ending well of stuff to just swim in. And as a result, I think I have even more diverse taste than any of my siblings now.
Kurt, you know how we watch South Park, right?
Yes.
You've seen the Goth Kids, right?
I love the Goth Kids. That was the episode where they inserted Clamato juice into the storyline.
Well, that's what my sister used to be like.
Judy was a goth?
Yeah, she was a Goth Kid.
Oh, my Lord.
No, she wasn't. I was just kidding. She was, like, she was, like, in between.
Uh-huh.
Like, between goth and being a band member.
Do you have any pictures of her in this gear?
No.
Oh, bummer.
Sadly,
I still want to tease her about it now.
Sadly, eliminated. Actually, most of her friends were really into goth. And she was like...
I met more people who had friends who were into goth rather than them being into goth themselves.
Well, they were into that. Like, she was into it, but she wasn't, like... She wouldn't dress like that. It's kind of like me. I was a metalhead, but I never dressed like that.
Right, exactly. I get you. I got you.
I'm the furthest thing from a metalhead. Like, if you saw me, you'd be like, "Hey, you like classical music?"
I would not think that. I would not think that you were the type who would listen to groups like Mastodon at first sight.
Yeah, and as opposed to actually being that way. Everybody always, that's one of the things about people always assuming something completely different from what they have a different opinion of what you really are.
Yeah, the cliche line, don't judge a book by its cover, but it's so true because, there's a lot more complexities to people, underneath the surface. Cliche thing we've heard since we were kids, but is even truer than I think the people who preach it to us is.
Just because you like lucha doesn't mean you have to be, like odd-looking or anything.
Exactly.
Or
exactly. You don't have to be odd-looking to like lucha.
Lucha Libre, you could be fine. You could be sane. You could actually walk around amongst the normal folks. You won't bite. Lucha fans won't bite. We're normal. We won't.
That's right.
We'll pull your hair and we'll kick you in the nuts, but that's pretty much
all. During the day, we're mild-mannered, whatever we are.
Yeah. And I will pull each other's hair, kick each other in the nuts, yell out foul.
Scream foul.
Oh.
One of the things I loved very much about that South Park goth episode was when they broke out the Clamato juice. It reminded me when I used to work out at Gil's gym.
Yeah,
after the lucha workout concluded, there was a liquor store right next door to the gym.
Uh-huh.
And so, the younger students, usually me, would be sent out to, get beer for all the guys, and they always told me to get, a few chilled bottles of Clamato. And so they're sitting there drinking their Miller beer, and I see one guy who's making it half beer, half Clamato.
Oh, God, that sounds...
That's what I said. I looked at him and said, that is the sickest thing I've ever seen, and he's just sipping it like, it's a delicacy. And after the umpteenth time saying that looks so gross, he finally said, you know what? Try it. I dare you. Just try it. And so I put it to my lips and I took a sip, and it was the best tasting elixir I put my lips to in a long time.
You don't drink it anymore, though.
No, I do.
Oh, you do?
Not often. I'm not a frequent drinker, but sometimes I just like to get beer, mix it with Clamato. And I've tried drinking Clamato by itself, and, oh, man, it's disgusting. But you mix it with a nice cold beer, it's delicious.
I can't drink V8. I mean, that stuff looks disgusting to me. Like
I like V8, but you put that clammy taste into it. Yikes.
I always remembered when I was a kid, like the people who drink were like athletic or something, or like healthy. And I was like, dude, no, I'm the biggest slacker you'll ever go to meet. I'm not gonna
You and I were raised with opposite messages. I was always preached that athletes do not drink, they do not drug, and boy, was I lied to. What a naive child I was.
I learned that from the after-school specials, man.
That's right. The first wrestler I was introduced to was Don Muraco.
Uh-huh.
This was in 1976. I was 14 years old, and he was renting an apartment, not an apartment, but a house in Santa Cruz.
Uh-huh.
And my oldest brother lived in Santa Cruz. My brother was one of these surfer guys, as was Muraco back then. And so my brother, God bless him, I was like this, I think, 13-year-old kid who just wanted to meet a pro wrestler. And so my brother actually had the balls to just knock on his door and say, hey, I have a little brother who just loves wrestling, and he probably said something like, he's a total dweeb, will you put up with him for a few minutes? And Muraco, God bless him, said, yeah, come on in. So I walk into a house, and it's a house filled with all these, like, beach bums and hippies, and you see roach clips, joints laying around everywhere. That was my introduction to the athletic Spartan pro wrestler. and Muraco was a hell of a nice guy.
Yeah. Oh, so
I was sitting there in my, plaid checkered pants and my green T-shirt and shaking like a leaf because I was actually meeting the magnificent Muraco.
You're like, oh my God, it's Muraco.
Oh, he was a good sport. God bless him.
Yeah, this was when he was young too, so.
Yeah, it was right after he turned heel. I believe it was the first time he turned heel up in Roy Shire territory.
Oh.
Well, can you believe that an hour has already passed?
An hour passed, man. I tried to even play the song a little longer.
Well, Alfredo and I would be curious to hear what you people think of this last hour. I think this was an hour where we actually kind of winged it. Would you say more than we have any other episode?
Winged it? No, I actually did. I thought we did pretty good.
Okay.
I think we missed our third member of Slammin Stand, though.
Yeah, this is true, and we hope that he is doing the Zombie Nation proud. We salute you, Esteban Sims. And we look forward to seeing all of you next week. And, if you get a chance, drop us an email. You can email me at Liger, Lyger, at AOL.com.
They could Twitter. They could follow us on Twitter, too.
Yes, we are both in Twitter. I'm on as Vandal Drummond. And what's your handle is The Real Alfredo, isn't it?
The Real Fredo.
The Real Fredo.
Yeah.
Drop us lines. Let us know if you like what we do, if you think we totally blow, if we are likable but we blow at the same time.
Or if you
just send us your thoughts.
Or if you hate Kurt and love me, then you can email me. Right? Otherwise, don't email me.
That's right. Me, I can take the abuse.
You take the abuse. Kurt will take criticism.
That's right. I will take criticism.
Whereas I will fight.
Ouch. Especially if it's criticism from a woman. I dig the humiliation.
There you go, yeah.
Are you out there, Bull Nakano? Can you hear me calling to you? Well, and we sign off here then. Before we sign off, my website is www.standtheembryo.com. And Fredo, your website is?
My website is www.luchaworld.com and www.slambamjam.com,
where you can get the most bitchin' current wrestling DVDs and past wrestling DVDs. Yep. Alfredo has a hell of a catalog. So we're signing off here from Southern California, where the most sacred sound is the strum of the surf guitar. Take care, people. We will see you next Thursday night.